Hey Reddit. Been sitting here for an hour, just staring at the screen. I don't even know how to start this. I'm not much of a writer, but I need to get this out of my head before it eats me alive. I overheard my wife say something that completely shattered the way I saw our marriage. It wasn't even some big fight. No warning signs, no screaming match. Just one casual conversation with her friends, a throwaway comment, like it was nothing. But it was everything. Lauren and I have been together for 6 years, married for 3. We met in college. One of those classic stories where you start off as friends, then one day something shifts, and suddenly you can't imagine life without each other. I thought we were happy. We had the usual arguments: money, the future, dumb little things like whether it was worth getting the fancy version of a blender, but I figured that was normal. I thought we were solid. Last Friday night, Lauren had some friends over. Jessica, Sarah, a couple of other women she works with. They do this every couple of weeks. Sit around with wine, talk about their lives, gossip about work. I usually stay in my office, playing a game or catching up on work. Give them space. That night, I was hungry. That's it. Just wanted to grab some pretzels from the kitchen. Didn't expect to hear my own name come up in conversation. At first, I wasn't really paying attention. Just background noise, Jessica's loud voice, the clinking of glasses, laughter. But then Jessica asked something that made me stop in my tracks. But seriously, Lauren, what if someone better came along? What would you do then? I should have walked away. Should have just grabbed my snack and gone back upstairs. But the way Jessica said it, so casual, like it was just some fun little game, made my stomach drop. And Lauren? She didn't even hesitate. I mean, look at Jack. I remember gripping the edge of the counter, frozen, like my body knew before my brain did that I wasn't going to like what came next. He's fine, I guess. But if someone with more drive, better prospects came along, yeah, I'd probably upgrade. Then she laughed, and they all laughed with her. I just stood there in the dark kitchen, my heart pounding in my ears. My own wife, my partner, talking about me like I was some outdated phone she was waiting to replace. And she wasn't done. She started listing all the ways I wasn't enough. How I was too safe, too boring. How my job wasn't ambitious enough. I'm a mechanical engineer. Solid career, stable paycheck. But apparently, I lacked hunger. She wanted more. A bigger house, fancier vacations, a lifestyle like Sarah's, who married some investment banker. Even my car wasn't good enough. A 2020 Honda Civic. Embarrassing, she called it. And the worst part? No one disagreed. Jessica nodded along, sipping her wine. Yeah, I get that. You deserve more. Honestly. Sarah chimed in. At least he's good with the house stuff. Like I was some goddamn butler. I don't even know how long I stood there, listening to them pick apart everything about me. My job. My clothes. The way I laughed, too loud, too goofy. Every little thing she used to love about me, now just another reason I wasn't good enough. And all I could think about were the sacrifices I made for her. When she wanted to quit her job and start a business, I covered everything: rent, utilities, groceries, while she found herself. When that failed and she wanted to go back to school, I paid for it. The car she drives, the nice one? Yeah, I make those payments too. But listening to her talk, you'd think I was some loser who just sat around playing video games all day. Hell, she even complained that I worked too much, that I wasn't present enough. The same job that paid for everything she wanted. I wasn't even hungry anymore, just numb. I went back upstairs, shut the door to my office, and sat in the dark, staring at my computer screen, replaying her words in my head. I'd probably upgrade. How long had she felt this way? Had she always thought this? Was this what she told her friends about me all the time? I started thinking back, trying to piece it together. The way she always seemed a little embarrassed when we ran into her work friends. How she never posted pictures of us together anymore, even though she used to. The way she kept tagging me in luxury homes on Instagram with captions like someday. But now I wondered if she meant someday with me, or just someday with someone else. Maybe she'd been telling me this whole time, and I was just too blind to see it. I should have confronted her that night, should have stormed downstairs, called her out in front of her friends. But I didn't. I just sat there, scrolling through Reddit, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. By midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked into our bedroom. She was sitting on the bed, scrolling through her phone, looking completely at peace. Like she hadn't just ripped me apart over wine and gossip. She glanced up at me, smiling. Hey, babe. Like nothing happened. I just stared at her. Did you mean what you said? She blinked. What? What you said to your friends. My voice felt too calm, too steady, about upgrading from me. Her expression shifted, first confused, then surprised, then guilty. But instead of apologizing, she laughed. Laughed. Oh my God. She rolled her eyes. You were listening to us? Like I was the problem. I didn't say anything. Just waited. She sighed, setting her phone down. Jack, it was just girl talk. We were drinking. We were joking. You're taking it way too seriously. Joking. I let out a short breath. You didn't sound like you were joking. She made a face. Come on. You know how we get when we're together. We say dumb things. It doesn't mean anything. But it did. It did, because it had been so easy for her to say it. No hesitation. No second thought. I swallowed hard. Do you actually want to be with me, Lauren? Or am I just convenient? That was when her whole demeanor shifted. She crossed her arms, jaw tightening. Jesus, Jack. I can't believe you're even asking me that. You're being so insecure right now. I stared at her. Insecure? She scoffed. This is exactly what I was talking about with the girls. You twist things. You don't even try to understand what I need emotionally. You just throw money at problems and think that's enough. I almost laughed. Oh, so now you're keeping score? She threw up her hands. Real nice, Jack. Real fucking nice. I felt something inside me snap. I had spent years trying to make her happy, and she'd spent just as long waiting for someone better. I turned around and walked out. Slept in the guest room that night. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Lauren, thanks for making me feel like shit. Hope you're happy now that you ruined our night. I stared at the screen, didn't respond, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure I wanted to fix this. The next morning, Lauren acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee, scrolling through her phone, tossing me casual glances like she was waiting for me to break the silence first. Hey, she said, opening the fridge. Do you want chicken or salmon for dinner tonight? I stared at her. My wife, the woman who just last night had basically admitted she saw me as a placeholder, was asking about dinner. I don't care, I muttered, grabbing my keys. I wasn't about to sit here and pretend everything was fine. I needed air. She hesitated, watching me. Jack. I waited. Maybe she'd apologize. Maybe she'd say something, anything, that made me think last night had been a mistake. But instead, she just sighed and shook her head. Never mind. I walked out the door before I said something I'd regret. Work was impossible. I just sat at my desk, staring at my monitor, hearing her words over and over again. He's fine, I guess. But if someone with more drive came along, yeah, I'd probably upgrade. I was fine. Not good. Not great. Just fine. Until something better came along. The worst part? The more I thought about it, the more little things started clicking into place. The way she never posted about us on Instagram anymore, even though she used to. The way she always seemed off when we ran into her work friends. How she never introduced me with any enthusiasm. Just a quick, oh, this is Jack, before moving on, like I was some obligation instead of her husband. And then there were the someday comments. The houses she sent me, the expensive vacations she talked about, the way she'd say, I just wish we were doing more. I always thought she meant together. Now, I wasn't so sure. Sometime after lunch, I opened our bank app without really thinking. I don't even know why. I guess I just needed to feel in control of something. But as I scrolled through the transactions, my stomach twisted. Lauren's paychecks always went into her personal account. That wasn't new. We agreed on that when we got married. But I was the one covering everything else. The mortgage, the bills, the credit cards. She chipped in for groceries sometimes. But that was it. Except lately. She'd been spending way more than usual. New clothes. Salon visits. Expensive dinners. Ones I hadn't been invited to. And then I saw it. A hotel charge. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was a work event, a girls' night, something innocent. But I didn't believe that. Because suddenly, all the late work nights made sense. The sudden obsession with her phone. The way she rushed to turn her screen off whenever I walked into the room. I closed the app, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I needed to know the truth. That night, Lauren was sweet. Too sweet. She asked about my day. Smiled more than usual. Sat next to me on the couch, leaning into me like we were in the honeymoon phase again. Guilt. She was guilty. I played along. Pretended like nothing was wrong. But my mind was already working. I wasn't going to ask her outright. She'd lie. She was good at lying. No, I needed proof. The next morning, I left for work like usual. But instead of driving straight to the office, I parked a few blocks away and waited. Sure enough, at 9:15 a.m., Lauren left the house. She was dressed up. Not going to the gym, dressed up. Heels, a dress, full makeup. She wasn't going to work. I followed her. She drove downtown to a little cafe, parked, and walked inside. And that's when I saw him. Some guy, mid-30s, suit, clean-shaven, walked up to her like they'd done this 100 times before. She smiled, placed a hand on his arm, leaned in like she was telling him a secret. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I should have felt rage. Should have wanted to storm in there, make a scene, demand answers. But all I felt was this crushing, hollow feeling in my chest. Because deep down, I already knew. This wasn't new. This had been happening for a while. I watched them for a few minutes, just long enough to confirm what I already suspected, then drove away. I didn't go to work. Instead, I called someone I never thought I'd need. A divorce lawyer. David's office smelled like leather and coffee, the kind of place where people walked in thinking their lives were falling apart and walked out with a plan. At least, that's what I hoped. He was a sharp-looking guy, late 40s, the kind of person who had seen it all and wasn't easily surprised. I told him everything. The overheard conversation, the strange behavior, the hotel charge, the guy at the cafe. David just nodded, taking notes, like this was routine for him. Like he saw men like me walk in every day, blindsided by the person they thought they knew. You've already done more than most guys in your position, he said finally. You're thinking ahead. That's good. I let out a bitter laugh. Doesn't feel like I'm ahead. David leaned back in his chair. I'll be honest with you, Jack. This isn't just about catching her in the act. It's about protecting yourself. If she's been planning an exit, there's a good chance she's already thought about money. What she's entitled to. What she can get from you. I swallowed hard. So, what do I do? His answer was simple. You get proof. I exhaled sharply. You mean, spy on my wife? David gave me a look. She's already lying to you, Jack. You're just catching up. I knew he was right. I started small, checking her phone when she left it unattended. She always kept it close, but every once in a while, she got careless. And what I found, it was worse than I thought. She had a separate messaging app, one she never used with me. That's where she kept her real conversations. I only got a few glimpses, but it was enough. Flirty messages, plans, references to our spot. I felt sick, but I kept going. Her laptop was easier to access. She never logged out of anything. That's where I hit the jackpot. Her email was full of messages to and from her business trips. Fake invoices. Fake meetings. She even had a whole folder labeled New Life Planning. Inside, a budget. Listings for apartments in her name alone. A checklist of things she wanted in a future partner. High salary. Ambitious. Someone who could give her the life she deserved. I was nowhere in that plan. I sat there for hours, scrolling, screenshotting, saving every file. And the more I found, the less I recognized the woman I married. That night, when she came home, she kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. Asked how my day was. I stared at her, wondering if she knew I'd spent the afternoon reading about how she planned to replace me. I almost laughed. Instead, I just smiled. Good. It was a really eye-opening day. She didn't even notice the edge in my voice. I wasn't going to confront her yet. If she was playing the long game, so was I. First, I opened a new bank account. Started moving my paycheck there, little by little, just enough to go unnoticed. Then, I stopped covering her expenses. She had a credit card linked to our joint account. I canceled it. 2 days later, She came home frustrated. Jack, my card isn't working. I shrugged. Oh yeah, I had to shut it down. Too many fraud reports lately. She blinked. Well, did you order me a new one? Nope. I took a sip of my drink. But you have your personal account, right? Her mouth pressed into a thin line. She hated that answer. Good. I started letting things slip. The little things I always handled. I stopped. Her car needed an oil change. I forgot. Her parents' anniversary dinner? I didn't make the reservation. She started noticing. And then, just to make things interesting, I agreed to go on that couple's trip she had been so excited about. I saw the way her face lit up, the way she touched my arm, her voice all soft and sweet. She thought she was reeling me back in. She had no idea. I packed my bags, threw my laptop into my case, and got ready. Because by the time that weekend was over, Lauren's perfect little life would be in ruins. The drive to the lake house felt like stepping into some alternate reality. Lauren was glowing, like we were newlyweds again, sneaking glances at me, her fingers lightly brushing my arm as I drove. Every few minutes, she'd reach for my hand, squeeze it, then go back to scrolling through her phone. She was playing the perfect wife. It was almost funny. Jack, I really think this trip will be good for us, she said, her voice soft. We've been off lately. I just want us to have fun again. I nodded, smiled a little. Yeah, me too. Because I was definitely going to have fun. I'd spent the past month watching her lie to my face, listening to her bullshit excuses, letting her think she had me wrapped around her finger. She had no idea that sitting right next to her, in my bag, were the divorce papers. She had no idea that I had proof of everything. And she had no idea that by the end of this trip, she was going to lose everything. We pulled up to the rental house just as Jessica and Mark were arriving. Jessica, the same best friend who had encouraged her to upgrade. She gave me a tight-lipped smile, like she wasn't sure if I was still the clueless idiot Lauren had described. The rest of the group showed up not long after. Sarah and Pete, Lisa and Rob, the same people who had sat around that night, laughing at my expense. I wondered how many of their marriages were just as fake as mine. Dinner was over the top. Expensive steaks, wine, fancy little appetizers that Lauren made a big show of plating just right. She kept touching me, laughing at every joke I made, acting like we were the perfect couple. I let her, because after dinner, when everyone was full and relaxed, when the wine was flowing, I stood up. I have something special planned, I said, pulling my laptop out of my bag. Lauren's eyes lit up. Maybe she thought I was about to do something romantic. Maybe she thought this was some kind of grand gesture. I connected my laptop to the massive outdoor TV on the deck. The screen flickered on. Lauren's face froze. Because the first thing that popped up? Her Tinder profile. Silence. Jessica let out a nervous laugh. Jack, what is this? Lauren shot up from her seat. Jack, turn that off. I ignored her. Clicked through the screenshots. The messages. The hotel reservations. The dating site where she had proudly listed herself as separated and looking for someone ambitious. She lunged for the laptop. I stepped back. No, Lauren, I said calmly. You wanted something better, right? Let's show everyone what you've been working on. She was shaking. This isn't funny. Turn it off. Jessica looked like she wanted to disappear. Sarah was staring, mouth open. Mark looked sick. I started reading the messages out loud. The ones where she complained about how I wasn't motivated enough, how she couldn't wait to start over with someone who matched her energy. Lauren burst into tears. You're humiliating me. I turned to her, calm. No, Lauren. You did that. I'm just showing everyone the truth. I reached into my bag and pulled out the divorce papers. Set them neatly on the table. Here's your upgrade, Lauren. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face, shaking her head like she couldn't believe this was happening. Sarah got up and walked inside. Lisa whispered something to Rob. Jessica was staring at the ground, her face pale. Lauren turned to them, desperate. You guys know me. You know I wouldn't. Jessica cut her off, voice small. We didn't know it was this bad. I grabbed my bag, looked at Lauren one last time, and walked away. The last thing I heard before getting into my car was Sarah's voice, low and sharp. I can't believe you did this to him. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing the whole drive home. Call after call. Text after text. Lauren, Jack, please. Just talk to me. Lauren, you didn't have to do that in front of everyone. That was cruel. Lauren, we can fix this. Just come home. I didn't respond. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I felt empty. I should have felt victorious, like I had finally taken control, but all I felt was drained. I stepped into the house, my house, and for the first time, it felt different, quieter, almost peaceful. No more wondering where she was. No more questioning her late nights. No more playing the role of the clueless husband while she lined up my replacement. I went straight to bed, slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I got a call from an unexpected number. Lauren's dad. I hesitated before answering. Jack, he said, his voice heavy. I don't even know what to say. I stayed silent, letting him fill the space. She came here last night, he continued, crying. Told us you humiliated her. But then, he sighed. She showed us the texts, the emails, the accounts. Jesus, Jack. I had no idea. Neither did I. Not really, until I'd put everything together. She lied to us, he said, his voice shaking. Made it seem like you were the problem, that you were pulling away from the marriage. That hit me harder than I expected. I had spent years thinking Lauren's family saw me as one of their own, and the whole time, she had been feeding them some rewritten version of our life. I exhaled, rubbing my temple. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. No. His voice was firm. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this. That was the last thing I expected to hear. Lauren's mom got on the phone next. She was crying, apologizing, saying she never raised her daughter to be like this. She's staying with her cousin for now, she sniffed. She doesn't have anywhere else to go. I almost laughed at that. For years, she had built this fantasy of leaving me, trading up for something better. But now that the truth was out, she had no one. Her friends had distanced themselves. Sarah and Lisa unfriended her on everything. Even Jessica, her biggest enabler, was keeping quiet. Turns out, it's easy to encourage someone to destroy their marriage until you see the wreckage up close. I thanked Lauren's parents for calling and hung up. Then, I called David. We're moving forward, I said. Good, he said. You'll come out of this clean, Jack. She won't get a dime. That was all I needed to hear. The next few weeks were strange. Lauren still tried reaching out. First, she was angry, accusing me of ruining her life. Then, she was heartbroken, swearing she still loved me. Then, she got desperate. She showed up at the house one night, eyes red, voice shaking. Jack, she whispered, please, let's just talk. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. About what, Lauren? She bit her lip. I was stupid. I got caught up in things that didn't matter. I just stared at her. I wasn't really going to leave, she rushed out. It was just fantasy. Just talking. You have to believe me. I laughed. Actually laughed. You had a spreadsheet, Lauren. A checklist for your next husband. She flinched. I don't think that was just talking. She wiped at her eyes. I miss you. No, I said, voice steady. You missed the life I gave you. That was the truth. She didn't miss me. She missed the security, the stability, the credit cards and the bills she never had to worry about. And now, she had nothing. I stepped back. This conversation is over. She stared at me for a long moment, like she was finally realizing, truly realizing, that there was nothing left to save. Then, she turned and walked away. That was the last time I saw her in person. The divorce was finalized a month later. Lauren tried to fight for money, claimed she needed alimony to adjust to life on her own. David shut that down fast. Turns out, having written proof that you were planning to leave your husband for a richer guy doesn't look great in court. She got nothing. She moved into a tiny apartment, got a job at some local boutique. A friend of a friend told me she was back on dating apps. Her bio? Recently separated, independent, looking for something real. The irony almost killed me. Meanwhile, I started focusing on myself. I hit the gym, took a promotion at work, got my own place. And then, one night, I ran into someone unexpected. Her name was Emily. She worked at my gym, helping people with their form. I'd seen her around before, but never really talked to her. One night, we ended up grabbing coffee after my workout. She had been through something similar. An ex who lied, manipulated. She understood. We started texting, then seeing each other more. And for the first time in years, I felt like someone actually saw me. Not as a paycheck, not as a placeholder. Just me. The other night, she taught me how to make sushi. We laughed, made a mess of her kitchen. It felt real. And that's when it hit me. Lauren had spent all this time looking for an upgrade, but I was the one who actually found something better.